And welcome to the studio for the weekly edition of Small Biz Matters with Alexi Boyd. Thank you for joining me, everyone, for another fabulous week full of really fantastic small business education, advocacy, and a bit of peppering of events as well. Today we're going to be talking all about video production. Now, it's something that's close to my heart, and I think we've all come around to the notion that video production is really important to our marketing. So I thought what we would do is bring on an absolute expert, someone with a huge amount of experience in the industry, not just from the perspective of running a video production company, but imparting his knowledge on others. Geoff Anderson is now onto his second book, Watch Me Now, which I was fortunate enough to attend the book launch at recently. And he's basically a best-selling author through which he imparts all that knowledge that he's accumulated over the years about production techniques, simple things like how to hold a camera properly. But more importantly, once you've produced that video, how do you get it out there? How do you really use it as a fantastic piece of marketing material? And he uses great test cases and examples in his book to explain to small business how to do that really effectively. So if business is aware of video and it's so important and it gets pushed up the Google stats and it's given importance in the social media platforms, why are we not all doing this every 5 minutes? If social media gods prioritise video content and we're not making the most of it on our mini personal computers and running around offering our thoughts and expertise daily, why is that? Are we nervous about putting our faces on camera? Do we think that we don't have the knowledge in which to impart to our listeners? Do we think nobody's listening? Why is it happening? Maybe it's because we're not sure how to do it and then how to get the message out there, which is essentially what we need to do with our marketing experience. For starters, we don't wear the hat of video marketing experts. Geoff Anderson is such a person. He's launched a second book called Watch Me Now, Leveraging Videos to Maximise Your Return on Investment. And he clearly points out the video is worthless if no one's seeing it. So he's here to teach us today about not only producing great video content, but how to engage with an expert to take it to the next level and how to make sure that it's seen. Welcome back to the show, Geoff.
Thank you very much, Alexi, for having me. It's wonderful to be back here. Thank you.
It is great. It's great to see you back on Community Radio Triple H 100.1 FM. First of all, congratulations on a very successful launch last night. Packed room, fantastic networking, and really good examples of how you've successfully used video marketing to assist your clients, which was good to hear.
Thank you, and thanks very much for coming along. It was wonderful to have you there. It was a really lovely night, and it was, I'm still sort of buzzing a bit from it all and trying to catch up this morning, but yeah, it was great. And I think the message I wanted to get out to people was that, as you were saying, video is so powerful, it's so important, and more people I think have woken up to that. But what I've seen over the last few years is they have good videos, but they're not necessarily getting them in front of the right audience in the right time, in the right way, and they're really missing a whole lot of opportunities. And I thought, this is crazy. You know, we've got a fantastic video there sitting on a website or sitting on a YouTube channel, but nobody knows it's there, nobody's engaging with it, nobody's seeing it. So I thought what I needed to help people do was to get them to watch those videos more. And so that's what this new book is all about.
Has technology made video production more accessible to everyone, literally, because everyone's got a pretty powerful video camera in their pocket?
Oh, look, there's no barriers to entry anymore. You know, when I first started my business 26-something odd years ago, a cheap, non-linear, computer-based editing system was $100,000.
Ouch.
And, you know, the camera that you used was in two parts. It had a big big case thing that had a recording deck in it that you'd have to have, either somebody would have to carry it behind you, or it would be connected with an umbilical cord to the camera, which is, like this 10 kilo thing you're holding over your shoulder, the quality of which was nothing compared to what we get now out of the phone. So, you can shoot, you can edit, you can upload from your phone within seconds, and it's just phenomenal what's available to people. There really is no barriers to entry. I think your point that, why aren't people doing it more often, I get that. I think there's a lot of where do I start? Oh, I'm going to look silly. The beauty of video, of course, though, is, if you do a terrible take, you don't post that one. You have another crack at it. And you start. Once you start doing it, you'll get better at it. People will tolerate, the casual video content, I call it these days. I talk about video in three styles. So you've got casual, which is, the stuff you shoot on your phone, and it's out there all the time now. Everyone's seen it, and they accept it. If you've got something to say and you shoot it on your phone, that's fine. We'll watch it. We understand it's shot on a phone. It's okay. Then you've got the community-grade content, which is stuff which is the sort of a little bit more production quality that you're sending out to people that are already part of your community. So these are clients, these are suppliers, these are staff, these are family and friends. They already know you. You're not necessarily needing to convert them into a customer, but you do want to engage with them. So you need to make sure you got the framing right, the camera's steady, the lighting's okay, and the audio's fine. So those things are important. And then you have the commercial grade quality, which is that level above, which is the high-end stuff where you really want to impress people, you want to attract more clients, and you need, some proper thought going into that. So there's a place for all of those types of videos. I work with clients on their commercial and their community grade content, but I also encourage them to make their own content as well with their phones because they can. There's no reason not to.
And it's interesting, comes back to what you were saying about there not being a barrier. So we've dropped the technology barrier. We're kind of getting more used to, as a society, the idea of having our face on a camera. It's no longer the 15 seconds of fame thing that we all talked about in the 80s. And I guess now the last barrier, which is understanding what the conversation is, that's slowly coming down as well as we get used to more and more content and seeing more content on our social media platforms, and also just communicating. People are sending video messages to one another as if to say, there's obviously the FaceTime thing, but they're also sending video messages to send a message, like a little voicemail. It's like a video mail.
I did that this morning to my wonderful MC from my book launch last night, Edward Zia, just to thank him very much for doing a great job. And I thought, I'll text him. I thought, no, I'll send him a video because that's what he does. And,
it is.
And I thought, no, that's the best way to message him. And he can see that, the personal gratitude that I had.
And that's the thing, that real, I guess, the face-to-face notion. You're not ringing them and talking to them and you're not meeting with them face-to-face, but it's one step removed, but you've still got that emotion and you're picking up on a lot more triggers and factors of conversation when you've got a video, don't you, as opposed to just your voice?
Absolutely, and I talk to clients about some of the videos that they should make, and one of the ones I talk about is what I call a rapport building video, and that's where people are actually able to connect with you, even online, digitally, without ever having met you, but they get to see what gets you out of bed every day, why you love doing what you're doing. You tell a little bit of a story about, what you're passionate about with your work and the value you can bring. And then I've heard it with clients that I've done this for, where they get a phone call from somebody, say, great, I want to work with you. When can we start? And they say, oh, well, do you want to come and meet or something? They go, no, I've seen your video. I trust you. I'm ready to go. Which is exactly
Trust
what
building.
You want. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And maybe it's that whole, I can see their face and I can see the person behind that. And that's why I've built some trust in that.
Yeah, absolutely. You get a better sense of the person, and just the way they speak, the way they interact. You go, yeah, look, I like that person. I feel comfortable, and I believe that I could work well with them.
So let's take it back a couple of notches and look at the practical effects. I just had a very classic example of how not to do things. I guess preparation is the key. I'll put myself out there and say, I know what I'll do. I'll do live streaming and I'll do some video content today for the show. Now, I said that to myself 55 minutes ago before coming on air. Probably not the best planning technique. I brought along a stand. I'm going to put myself out there. I put a rubber band around my phone and I tried to get it to stand. Funnily enough, it didn't work. So it does take some preparation, even if you're just using the phone, maybe looking at the background, maybe looking at where you're standing, a little bit about what you're wearing and your facial expressions. What are some top tips with people who are starting out doing it for the first time and holding that camera out in front of their face? Well,
can I just take you back a sec there? Because what you did there was a classic example of how you become an expert, okay? You make a mistake and you think, you know what, I really actually need a phone holder on there next time. And next time, I bet you're going to have a phone holder.
I certainly am.
You've learnt, and mistakes are the best teacher. So that's okay, have a go. And people will make videos and they'll realise the audio sucks and they can't use their video. They've gone back into the edit suite afterwards and they realise, oh, I can't hear it. I actually had a client. Well, they weren't a client. I've been poaching them to be a client. And they sent me a video. Said, oh, look, we shot this ourselves. All you can hear are the cicadas because we've shot them on a couch about 10 feet away from the microphone and where the camera's outside where all you can hear are these cicadas. Can you fix this? So I went, no, I can't fix it.
We need a cicada plug-in.
because it was already damaged. So, you can't salvage that sort of stuff. But, that's where people learn. And, I've been doing this for a long time and I've made plenty of great mistakes, which are now, unconscious competencies where I think, I make sure I do this. It's just got to happen. You've got to have the microphone right. You've got to have the lights and all these sort of things set up in, as you go. So, some of the fundamentals, sound is a really big issue. Having said that, with a lot of 85% or so of online videos are watched mute, and there's a really important role of captions now with videos, and you can get those done very cheaply from rev.com, rev.com. They do it for $1 a minute, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the best money you can spend.
I would put it out there as well as apps, because they're not 100% accurate. There are some really great transcription services if you're doing a more complex video, say, I don't know, for pharmaceutical or medical, where you need to get things correct and accurate. Have a look at some of the transcription services that are actual people that are Sydney-based in particular. There's some great ones in it that are Australian-based as well. So there are apps out there, but they're not going to hit that 100% success rate that sometimes you need. No.
And Rev they have two options. They have a 10 cent a minute automated thing with just a robot. And, that gets quite amusing what they come up with. And then you've got the real person one that does it for $1 a minute, and they get it close. They get it pretty good. They don't promise 100%. They say, look, it's about 99%, but you need to check it, and that's fine. But the amount of time it takes to check it is nothing compared to the amount of time it saves in doing it. So
that's one way to get around that sound issue, because if you're in a busy place,
it is. It's not something you should rely on, though. So obviously, first point of call is make sure you've got a decent sound system. And the way to do that is, if you're shooting on your phone, make sure there's not a lot of background noise going on, like cicadas or traffic or children screaming
cockatoos,
or whatever. Yes, all of those things, which we sort of can often filter out ourselves, but it's only when you play it back that you realise, oh no, that's stuck there and we can't do anything about it. So you've got to pause and listen and just see what else is going on around you. Framing, try and get the head at the top of the frame. A lot of people have the habit of putting the face in the middle of the frame, and there's like the top half of the frame is empty. So think about getting the head at the top of the frame. I am not a fan of portrait videos.
Oh, anybody who's a professional videographer will tell you, turn your phone on its side. Don't do it portrait.
It's not hard to turn it 90 degrees, and it's just going to give you so many more options down the track in terms of what you do with your video when you repurpose it. When you're putting it on YouTube, showing it on a live screen at a venue, whatever you're doing with it, you're going to not have these big empty spaces on either side of the video if you've shot it in landscape to start with. And for a lot of people, it's just they don't stop to think about it, and they just shoot it in portrait because that's the way they're holding their phone. So I do encourage you to shoot it in landscape. If you're doing it on Instagram, I know they do preference portrait video, but I think you can get away with landscape as well. It's a better option.
It's easy. Easy fix.
It is.
So sound, thinking about the background noise, that's really important, as well as the sound quality. Holding the phone in a landscape fashion, that's easy.
Yep.
What about colour and background imagery?
Sure.
Do you think that's important?
Yeah, look, the more vibrant your image is, the more interesting it's going to be. And put a little bit of thought into what is behind the subject. So if we're just talking about talking head sort of videos here, which are probably the easiest ones to shoot, look at the background and think, okay, how does that add to the story? Try to avoid putting people up against a wall. Sometimes I see people flat up against a wall. They look like they're in a police lineup. It's not the most attractive thing. If you don't have an option and you've got a wall, maybe, put the wall at an angle so you've got a bit of perspective or something and it looks a little bit more interesting.
That's a good idea.
And try to give a bit of space, a bit of depth in the background. Ideally, if you've got, layers of depth in the background, it's a much more interesting image.
So it's okay to have moving images in the background, as in people walking past you? Is it okay to give it that life?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, we do a lot of private school videos, and, just having that movement of kids, moving around the school, it just gives it like a sense of, yep, this is a happening place, it's alive and things are going on. So, have it in context. Obviously, you don't want someone... What often happens is you'll see somebody stop because they realise they're filming and they'll just freeze and look at the camera. You thought, if you just kept walking, no one would have noticed you. But because you stopped and just froze like a deer in the headlights, we've got to stop and start again now.
Yeah.
So the best thing you can do is just keep moving and walking.
So the background is very important, obviously, giving a bit of perspective. That's a good idea. I like the idea of having some depth, because I guess it gives that personality to it as well and makes you a bit more human, as opposed to Max Headroom, who's just standing behind a blank wall behind you.
So a little trick with that sometimes is, if you're about to shoot, maybe just look behind you and say, actually, what does this look, directly behind me? And it might open up a whole new world of possibilities for you. So, yeah, and also sometimes, like if there is a bit of background noise, you might be filming conference highlights or something and getting some vox pops from people there. And there's a lot of, background noise of people talking. If you can see those people in the background talking, you've then got context of what that noise is. And it's a little bit easier to watch because you understand, there's a whole lot of people having tea and coffee behind them. And so there is that noise going on, but I can see. But if you've just filming them and you can't see the background noise, it's kind of like, this is really irritating. So
I see what you mean. If you've got them with a wall and then behind that is the noise. Unless you, I guess, set it up with a bit of a, we're here at the expo, we're here at the conference, and we're in amongst the people.
Well, if you can see it, you don't need to say that because you can see it already. So it just helps give context to what's going on.
We're going to take a quick break here on Triple H 100.1 FM. And when we come back after the break, I'm going to talk to Geoff about context and content and why it's really important to think about the future life of your video apart from what you're filming right then and there. You're listening to Triple H and across the community radio network around Australia. We'll be back after this. So just before the break, we were talking about creating great video content, and you mentioned that there are some really great top strategies to ensure that you're getting the most out of spending that time creating that video. You think about background, you think about the technical aspects, you think about sound, because that's really important. Now, you've got this piece of content. Of course, a little bit before that, you need to plan out what you're going to do with it. So how can we think about content and video in terms of repurposing and using that content time and time again, or just thinking in advance, what am I going to do with it once I've produced it and published it?
Well, actually, a step before that is, why am I making this video? What is the purpose of the video? And there's, thousands of different reasons why you make one a video, but it's really important that you have some clarity around that, because that's going to drive everything that happens with that video, where you post it, who you engage with it, and what you measure as a result of it. So having clarity, do I want people to visit a website? Do I want them to pick up the phone and call me? Do I want them just to be connected with me? Do I want them to download something? Do I want them to buy a ticket to something? Do I want them to donate money? The more clarity you have around that, it's going to drive the messaging, the structure of your video. And it also means that you can track it and see, okay, is this actually working? Am I getting people visiting the website? Am I getting things downloaded? Or, are they donating money? So it's really important to keep asking yourself, what am I trying to achieve from this video, and what's the sort of information and emotional connection I need to create to achieve that? So starting with that is really important, and then measuring that is really important as well to check that it's actually working for you along the way.
What if you haven't decided yet? What if you just want to start practicing and putting it out there and just kind of do it organically? Is it again okay to just... Or does that seem a bit haphazard and a bit disorganised?
Look, that's perfectly fine. That's a start. So that's about building brand awareness and connecting with the community. So that's what you're doing in that case. That actually is your purpose. Your purpose is just to build an audience, provide useful information. If anybody's worried, and this is something that took me a while to work out about, I don't want to go and bother people's time by, selling myself. Don't. What you do is you think, okay, I'm in business. That means I have some value that people are prepared to pay money for. Therefore, you have some insights that are going to be useful and valuable to people. So share those insights. Be helpful. Provide useful tips for people. I talk about a 5 mistakes video. What are 5 mistakes people make when working with your type of industry or service? Because that's really helpful. Instead of putting a promotional video on the front page of my website, I've got a 5 mistakes video on the front page of my website, because what that does is it actually educates my audience that says, you want to make videos, these are some of the things that can go wrong. And by working with us, we'll make sure they go right. And it sort of makes them appreciate the value you're providing along the way. So there's lots of content that people are able to create just by thinking, how can I help my customers? What are some of the things that have come up all the time? What are the ways in which, I can make their life easier? And as you hit sort of hurdles with customers, I think, I wish they, hadn't done that. They're always doing this. They're always getting this part wrong. Let me educate them. Let me help them provide that sort of content. So that's a way to build trust and credibility with your customers as well.
And a great way to position yourself as the expert in your field.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, that's where I took a long time for me to start writing blogs, but when I got over that and thought, well, rather than me trying to sell myself, let me actually provide, some helpful tips.
And a lot of people, I think that whole notion of I have to hold on to my expertise and other people have to pay me for it, that's gone. because I think there's so many people sharing their expertise and what they do and imparting knowledge and positioning themselves as an expert. If you're not doing that, you're almost seen to be a bit, I don't know, I guess selfish with what you do.
Well, yeah, but scarcity mindset rather than abundant mindset. And the reality is that there is no value in information anymore at all. There is, information is everywhere. The value is in the implementation. So if you can position yourself as somebody with credibility and experience that can deliver that value, that's where you're going to, get traction.
And I think that delivery message is very important as well. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking to Geoff Anderson from Sonic Site, and we're talking all about delivering video content, thinking about in advance, preparing for the actual video itself and the practicalities of that, but the why. Why is it that you're producing this piece of content? What do you want to do with it? I think that's one of the reasons, Geoff, when I've always held back from doing it is, well, exactly, where do I want this to go? Is there a click-through? Is there traction? Is there ROIs? Is there people moving to my website? And I became quite overwhelmed with that. But you can just start with, have a chat.
Absolutely. There's plenty of useful content out there that you can create. Maybe, take 5 minutes and do a mind map or whatever and think about all these little topics that you could tell people about and, that you could cover in a 30, 60-second video.
Mistakes I've made, mistakes I've seen my clients make. I like that idea that you had, things that I can fix and offering a solution to the problem, which is essentially what running a business is.
Yeah, and then you've got the pitch video, which is it's about a problem that you're solving for your client. So you're selling your services, but you need to frame it in a way that it's all about the customer. So you talk about the problems the customer has and then how you can help them and then mention a bit of your experience or credibility that would give them trust that they should work with you.
It sounds to me when you're talking about that pitch video, that does require a little bit more thought, maybe some scripting, maybe some planning out on where you're going to be, because that kind of the important one, the one that really needs a little bit of planning?
Yeah, well, that's getting more into that sales end of the conversation that you're having with customers. So, yeah, you do need to put a bit more thought of that and run it by people and just say, look, how does this sound? Is this resonating? Is this, hitting the right buttons? Does this make sense to you? But, yeah, it's really tempting, and I see it all the time with my clients where they want to talk about themselves. This is what we do. This is how we do it. And it's as exciting as a customer seeing your logo. They don't care about your logo. And that's another thing is don't have a 10-second animated logo at the start because nobody cares. They've clicked away after 3 seconds.
Yeah, I was going to say, who's got a 10-second attention span these days?
Oh, that's right. So if you want to put some branding in, put it as a lower bar super or put it at the end of, at the closing.
Sorry. English, lower bar super?
So a superimposed frame where you put your name on the screen. You see the names pop up when people are talking. You can have some graphic elements to that as well. So, or you could put a watermark which just stays on the screen. But starting a video with a long-winded logo is just a death knell to your success of your video.
Bit old school.
Yeah, and I had a client the other day insisting on it, and I'm just like, anyway.
Did they want to have the logo bouncing around the screen as well, like a ping-pong ball?
They just didn't get it. And they wanted to have the big title, and they wanted to, explain everything about what this video was for like 10 seconds before it opens. I said, but when you post this video, you're going to post it on YouTube or you're going to post it on Facebook or you're going to send it out in an email. You're going to have a whole lot of text wrapping around that. So it's going to have a whole lot of information already available for people to see what this video is about. You don't need to waste their time at the beginning of the video explaining what it is because they already know. They've clicked on it or the YouTube name tells it, the comments, the description explains it, the Facebook post, the LinkedIn post has some little bit of text which explains what this video is about. So just get into it. Just don't waste time. Just get into it as quickly as you can. Well,
that segues nicely to my next question, which is, what is the perfect length video in your experience?
Yeah, that's...
How long's a piece of string question?
Well, it's how long is it going to keep people engaged? So, we go and watch hour-long movie, a couple of hours long movie.
This is true.
And we love it. And we sit there in a confined space and are totally immersed in it. I know Facebook are trying to make longer videos, so... longer being like 3 minutes or 5 minutes because they want to start putting ads in the middle of them. YouTube are already doing this. What tends to happen is, and that's the challenge that Facebook has, is that people are just scrolling through it. So for somebody to actually stop and watch a video, it takes a bit of effort for people to actually pause their flicking. So that's why, typically Facebook videos are under a minute. Then on YouTube, they're longer form ones because what tends to happen is when people go on YouTube, they're actually specifically searching for something. They've Googled it, they want to find how to do something or the latest trailer or whatever it is. So in regards to what you can do, if you do have a longer message, think of it like movie trailers. Think, okay, well, I'll do a 30 or a 60, 45-second summary of what's in this longer form video. So if people want to watch the 5 or 10-minute video, here's a quick snapshot. If you're interested in this and you want to see a longer version, click here. Watch the rest of it. So rather than trying to expect people to watch a long thing when they're not in the right headspace to do it, maybe just put a short version, a quick intro to it on Facebook, and then push them over there later.
Can I give a tip just from as a content producer point of view? Is the best time to do your intros or your here's what if you want to find out more is right after you've done the video itself, while it's fresh in your mind. So I like to walk out of the studio and I'll walk into the post-production room and go, today we talked about, video production and how to use it for your business with Geoff Anderson. It was a really great show. He imparted his knowledge. Because it was fresh in my mind, I was able to just go, blah, 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 and then it's done.
Yes.
I suppose if you came back to that after a couple of weeks and went, okay, I've done the big one, I've done it and it's edited and it's beautiful, and now I'm going to do the short version, it's like, oh, I can't remember what it was that we talked about.
Yeah.
Is that a good idea?
Look, that's in so many aspects of life. You know, if I've got to write a proposal after meeting a client, the best time to do it is that day when it's all fresh and I'm in the zone with it all. I try to explain this to my son with his schooling. You know,
Revision.
Do it that day and it's going to stick.
Yeah.
Come back to it, a week or 2 weeks later, you've got to learn the whole thing again from scratch. So
science has proven this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's, I don't think I'll ever get through.
Yeah, no, science has proven it, but Dad...
Science has proven parents aren't listening to.
Yeah, that's very true. So we've got this great piece of content and we're thinking about different ways of using it, which is always helpful. What we might do is and take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk about thinking of that long form and thinking of that, okay, I've got the funds, I want to think about doing a whiz-bang production that is really going to draw people into the conversation and repurpose it and use it in lots of different ways. Yeah. It would be helpful, I think, for listeners who have never engaged with a video production company to know what sort of things do I need to bring to the table? Or do I just walk in and go, I want a video, which is never helpful for anyone you're briefing.
Or how much for a video?
Oh, yeah, that one. Well, that's great. We're going to take a quick break here. We're here with Geoff Anderson from Sonic Site, who has just written a fantastic book, which is available now. Geoff, just quickly tell us where the book's available.
You can find it on Amazon. So if you search for Watch Me Now, Geoff Anderson, you'll find it in whatever country you're in. You can also find it on Booktopia, Angus and Robinson, or you can go to geoffanderson.com.au, just click on the Books tab, and I'll send you a personalised signed copy.
Oh, very special. Look, thanks for... We'll come back after the break and we're going to talk more about the professional side of video production. You're listening to Triple H 100.1 FM Small Biz Matters with Alexi Boyd. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Triple H 100.1 FM. You are live in the studio and across the community radio network. My name is Alexi Boyd, and today we've got another great podcast, live broadcast on Small Biz Matters, where we're educating listeners all about video production. Now, 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, video production was pretty much out of everybody's hands. And at the beginning of the program, we were talking about how you can utilise this skill and create your own short messages, imparting expertise, showcasing your wares where you might be at a conference or if you're speaking, or just capturing the moment. And those are great for short little stints where you might have information that you want to get across. If, however, you're looking at producing something high-end and that you really want to, it's your sales pitch, it's your sales video, and it's really showcasing your company and what it is that you do, you probably want to consider going down the professional route. Now, Geoff, you've obviously got decades of experience talking to and...
Just looking at me, you can tell that.
Yeah. That's what the beauty of radio is. And what's great about bringing all this knowledge into your book is that a lot of people just go, how much is a video? And it's kind of like saying to a financial planner, where will I be in 50 years' time with my money? It's kind of how long's a piece of string question.
Yeah.
What do we really need to bring with us to that, to make that time, useful for both the person who's quoting and for you, the business owner?
Look, that came up a lot of times for me, Alexi, and over times I thought, okay, I need to once again help my clients work through this process. So I wrote a blog about don't waste your time with a video quote, and the point of that was to explain to them, if you just ask someone for a quote without giving them a proper brief, it's just wasting your time. You're not going to be comparing apples with apples. You know, you get 3 quotes. One person's quoted you, really cheap money. Other one's really expensive. You've got no idea what the difference in value is or what you're going to get as a result.
It's a good point.
And you're going to possibly be quite disappointed when it's, but I thought it was going to be like this. I've actually had some clients, after we finish shooting, say, oh, great, and I want it to look like this. I'm going, really? Well, yeah, we can do that. We're just going to have to start filming again, though, because that's not what we shot.
Yeah.
You really needed to tell us that beforehand. So I've put an outline together for people to think about the sort of things that are going to really make it easy to give a quote which is going to match their expectations. And sometimes they have to stop and think about things. And so I talk about, what's the video for? What's the purpose? What are you actually trying to achieve?
The why.
Yep. Who's the target audience? So the more specific you can be about who is the people, the ideal person that you want to be watching this,
yes,
that really is important to structuring the message the right way. Because
are we talking age? Are we talking sectors? Are we talking this is my ideal client and there's the picture of them in the cartoon that I've got in my mind?
Absolutely. The more specific you can be, the more impact. In an age of automation, if you can be... Like, I had a client, one of the schools, and they did a welcome video for their families that they wanted them to enrol. They'd already expressed interest, and they knew if they could get them to this welcome day, they got a much higher chance of converting them into confirmed enrolments. And so they said, we want to send a video out to these families. And I said, okay, well, why don't we actually take it a step more and actually personalise each of these videos. Let's name each of the girls that are coming to the school.
Ooh.
So the first 2 lines of the video is, hi Abigail, we're really looking forward to seeing you at the welcome day. And the video title is Abigail Welcome Video. And so they got 135 separate videos made. So it was an extra days of production for us. It was an extra hour of filming because we had the girls sitting there saying each of the girls' name. We ticked them all off. So in an age of automation, when you get something personalised like that, it just cuts through. The client said, look, we think we got 12 more enrolments through that process, which equates to $1.3 million over the life of the...
That's some serious return on investment on that video.
Yeah. And so...
Because they knew what the end result needed to be before they started shooting it.
Absolutely, but this is when we're talking about the audience, how specific you can be, and the more accurate you are with the audience, the more cut through you're going to have with your message, and the better engagement you're going to have. So then it comes down to what's the action that you want them to have, the duration of the video, understanding where it's going to be used and how it's going to be used affects that. So, when 20, 30 years ago when we started making videos, they were, VHS tapes that ran, corporate video ran for 15 minutes. You had to put someone in a boardroom and they'd be bored watching this video go on and on, but they couldn't escape. So that was good. They couldn't click away to something else. Knowing how long you've got the time frame for the production, that's going to affect your deliverables, your costing and everything. And a really important thing that can really help in terms of making sure the production matches your expectations is if there's an example of a similar video and you say, this is the style I want it to look like this, that really helps, because as a production company, you can look at that and you can say, right, okay, that was a really simple shoot. We did this, this and this. Or actually, that may look really nice, but it's because they've got all these crew involved, all this equipment involved to get these nice tracking shots or whatever else it is. So understanding exactly what they want, and by showing examples is really helps everybody understand, right, okay, this is where we're going, this is where we're heading. So that's really important. And knowing what you want at the end of the day. These days it's generally an online video, it's an MP4 file. That's pretty standard. But, they may be embedding in a PowerPoint presentation, but once again, it can be that. Or they may be selling it, so there might be some platform they need to use to market it. The other thing that can help is if you've got a budget. If you actually know, look, I've only got $5,000 to spend on this, or I've got $30,000 to spend on this. If you can say that, then people know, okay, all right, well, based on that, we're only going to be able to do this, or based on that, we can do this and that. So those sort of things really help.
And it's not difficult for a small business to be strategic in that way, because answering those suggestions that you made just there, thinking about those as one practical idea at a time, it's not hard to break it down into, instead of going, okay, I've got a budget for a video, what am I going to do? If you chunk it down, start thinking about the answers to each of those questions, it makes it easier for the person who's the expert to look at equipment, to look at time, to look at talent, to look at the end result and how it's going to be delivered. What sort of expectations should you have of the video production company in terms of your return on investment? Is it up to you then to market that material? And really, if you, like you say, if it just sits there and does nothing, it can be a bit of a waste of money.
Gathers digital dust.
I love that expression. That's a great expression.
So look, typically production companies are there to produce the videos. If you work with an agency, they'll be more strategic in terms of, okay, after we make the video, this is where we're going to post it, this is how we're going to promote it, this is, what regions we're going to be using. So, but they don't have to. They can work hand in hand. It doesn't have to be the same company doing the video that does the media buy.
And vice versa.
Yeah. So it is important to think through, though, okay, once I've got the video, what am I going to do with it? How am I going to get it out there? And, in my book, I've got about 25 different ways that you can share your videos. So it's not just about putting on your... I have people say, look, we need a video, but we're making a new website, so, we don't need it yet. And I think, well, website's sort of one way you can share your videos. There's a lot more. So,
and it's going to take you a long time to get that website up and running. Why not actually use this content now?
Absolutely.
And use it down. Once you've got the material, essentially the raw video, would you go back to the production company and say, I need a 30-second, 45-second, or are you better off to ask them to do that right at the beginning? Is it okay to go back and say, can you edit that down? Can you make it this? Can you make it that? And keep on repurposing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so long as you've got that understanding with the production company that you're likely to do that means they will archive it and back it up appropriately so they can re-access it. Because if they've got the project file that's sitting there, it's easy to do. If they have to start from scratch or work off a fully edited video, it's not so easy.
Because these are big amounts of data. This is a lot of capacity that these videos take up for both yourself and for the video production company. So I guess you need to make that part of your brief as well. Yeah.
Very much. And as you heard last night, my client often repurposes videos we make for her in half a dozen different ways. But she's very strategic. She knows, okay, this audience needs to see a slightly different version of it, or we just need a 15-second one that we're going to put on catch-up TV, or a 30-second one that we'll do for an ad, that sort of thing. So understanding that and being open to that is very, very useful.
And that's where, if you haven't got a marketing hat, you don't come from a marketing background, you might want to engage with a marketing consultant that can say, okay, I want to make this video. Where do you suggest that we can target our audience the best way and use it? So it's kind of using all of your consultants with one another to make sure that you're making the most of this money that you're spending.
That's right. And then you've got, that collaborative teamwork happening where you've got, okay, a marketing team says, right, this is what we're trying to achieve. We're going to use video to do it, and they can start getting engaged with the video production company to say, okay, how about we do this and that? And the video production company can say, yep, look, what about this and that? And everyone works together, so you're getting a better outcome. Fantastic.
So that's just one example of all the fantastic points that you make in your book, and lots of great options. And in fact, you don't even need to have a marketing hat, because just grab hold of your book, you can probably find out some really great strategies. Tell us once again where people can find out more, Geoff.
So go to amazon.com or .com.au, go to Geoff Anderson, Geoff, anderson.com.au, and click on the books tab, and you'll be able to buy both of my books there.
Fantastic. Look, thank you once again for joining us at Triple H 100.1 FM. It's always lovely to have you in the studio. You're a wonderful knowledge sharer and an expert in your field. We hope to have you back on the program again. Maybe we'll get you back in a couple of years when we talk about the next evolution of where video's going again, and it'll all be completely different, and we couldn't have imagined where it'll be in that period of time. So thank you once again for joining us in the studio.
Thank you so much for having me, Alexi. It's wonderful to be back.
Now, if you've missed any of today's show, you can catch up via smallbizmatters.com.au, where there are over 150 podcasts just like this one that you can listen to at your leisure. It's also available where you get your podcasts online, and if you happen to enjoy our podcast, please like it, give it a little rating, give it a tick of approval, and that helps us to get the message out there. You've been listening to Small Biz Matters on Triple H 100.1 FM with Alexi Boyd. We'll be back next week with a pre-record, as I will be attending the Xerocon conference, the rah-rah of accounting and bookkeeping, which I'm really excited about. I'm not sure what to expect. I'm a bit frightened, to be perfectly honest. I hear huge things that go on there, and sometimes a little bit scary. And then, of course, this week I'll be attending the COSBOA conference on behalf of Triple H, where I'll be chatting to the head of the NBN, the head of vocational studies for the Australian government, the head of... just lots of heads of ATO, heads of ASIC, and just asking him the questions that small business really needs to know, like, where does my $254 go? So I'll be talking to lots of those bigwigs. And
where has my NBN gone?
Yeah, can I have it? So we'll be talking to lots of those guys in the conference in the coming days, and I'll bring that to you live on air in the coming weeks. Thanks for joining me once again. We'll see you all next week on Triple H 100.1 FM.